Yo, what's up everybody? Jumpin' here, and today I'm super excited because I'm going to be showing off my really overpowered Sorcerer build for Diablo 4 Season of the Blood. This is what I call Blizzard Explosion. Now Blizzard is kind of interesting. Blizzard is super good at killing bosses. It's got amazing single target damage because you can just ramp it up by just throwing out a lot of blizzards and then having ice spikes. And you're going to do a ton of damage. If you want to kill Lilith, a build like this is going to be a great Lilith killing build. I'm not exactly sure if the Blizzard build has any problems with AoE or mobbing, but all I really did was I went ahead and just threw on a unique, and oh man, it's so dumb. I'm using the X-Files Signet. That's why I call it Blizzard Explosion, because this build has a ton of lucky hit chance. I mean, a massive amount. And I'm using the Firebolt enchantment. On the Sorcerer, all you have to do is use the Firebolt enchantment if you want to use the X-Files Signet. I mean, that's insane, right? So, this is a perfect build in my opinion for the season using that ring. Mainly because we are able to apply the fire super quickly to everything. We have insane lucky hit, and when it comes to actually like dealing with stronger enemies or bosses, we can delete them with this build. Why would you want to use this build? I would probably think that you may not want to use the lightning ball build. That would be why. I mean, a lot of people, maybe you just see like, everyone's doing that. I want to do something different. I would definitely say that that build is probably better just because that's the strongest build I think I've ever seen in Diablo 4. And, I mean, this is kind of close, though. I mean, this is really strong. Mainly just look at it. Like, the moment enemies spawn, they instantly die. And everything just dies, like, so fast with this. And there's a lot of reasons why this build actually could be appealing. One of the reasons is a defensive reason. This build, the way I have it set up, I can spam all my defensive cooldowns. I actually kind of have like infinite cooldowns if I have enemies, because I'm resetting my ultimate Deep Freeze. And when you use Deep Freeze, you will reset all your cooldowns. So if you can actually get your ultimate to come back really quickly, which I'm using the new Flicker Steps, the boots, it's crazy. Because then I can reset all my cooldowns and just repeat that over and over again. And on this particular build, Deep Freeze actually feels like a real ultimate. I would have never thought in a million years that I would think that Deep Freeze was like my favorite ultimate, but it is now, by far. When you have it set up like this, it actually feels like an ultimate. It will wipe out the entire screen. The main thing that's going on with it is that when you're doing an ice spike build, because you are using Blizzard, but really it's all about the ice spikes, you are going to mainly be having ice spikes from Blizzard and ice spikes from Deep Freeze. And because we can spam Deep Freeze, we can really take advantage of the fact that the spikes are actually really strong. I mean, they're designed to be a little bit stronger. That's the only way to really make that ultimate do any real damage, is having those spikes. But that's not the only thing that it's going to do. It's going to set everything on fire. And because it's doing that, the X-Files Signet is going to detonate all those explosions. And here's something else. I'm using Shatter Key passive. That is so broken with this, because what's happening here, and you can actually see with this chest, and it's great, you can actually fight behind the wall. You can't do that on the Ball Lightning build. You actually would have to get close to that chest and die to all that fire. Where with this, I can just stand behind a wall. It's pretty nice. But you can actually see it here, like, really well. Shatter is destroying these enemies, because my explosion that I'm getting, which can be potentially for 3 million, who knows, like, that explosion is detonating so quickly with this build. The moment these enemies spawn, they're freezing, and then they are going to probably explode from the X-Files Signet for a lot of damage. Then they shatter for even, like, crazier damage. And right here, this is going to be a Lilith kill, so you can see how it can melt a boss. Now, another crazy thing about the Sorcerer is the ability to pull the enemies, because we have this amazing unique chest piece. And with that, you're able to pull them all together, and if you need your cooldown for your ultimate, just dodge through the enemies, and you can knock off 10 seconds, which is amazing. And then, if they are all bunched up, whenever you freeze them, and then the ring detonates, and then they shatter, everything's going to die. I've seen this many times with elites. I will pull them all together and they will instant delete. Now, when you are fighting bosses though, you really do want to use avalanche key passive. So at any point you could switch if you want, like maybe before you fight a boss or something. But really, I normally just keep Shatter on unless I'm actually like going to just go and fight Duriel or anything like that. I have a Blast Shrine on right now, so it's going to delete the boss. But this build is pretty crazy. So now I'm going to go ahead and break this down into a quick version. And then I'm going to have a version where I'm going to thoroughly explain everything because I have a lot to say. And it should be pretty informative. Alrighty guys, well, now that we have the training area, I can really show a lot of cool stuff. And first thing, I just want to kind of show you the insane amount of numbers you can get. Now, a big part of this is going to be Shatter. The moment I actually start throwing down my blizzards, basically what's happening there is that Shatter is giving me all these extra crits when they're frozen and everything. It's just insanity. And once I get it really ramped up, the numbers will just generally just become a blur. Like, you can't really see anything, and I can actually make it even crazier if I was to throw on these other boots. Because one thing you can do with this build is that you can actually walk around with these boots. Just lock them now. I love that, by the way. You lock these, and then if you're going to fight a boss, you can always throw these on because the crit chance is super nice. And then this as well, like the X-Files Signet is great, especially for mobbing, but for bossing, it just, I don't know. Like normally I think it's fine to take that off and go for something that will let you spam your blizzards more, because that's really all you have to do against a boss is just keep spamming blizzard and the boss will die. That's basically how it goes. Alright, now let's go ahead and talk about the abilities, but I also want to talk about the Paragon, but I'm not going to talk about it right now. I'm going to put timestamps in this video, so if you want to click the timestamp at any point to see me go over the Paragon, I will do that at the end. But everything here came from the max roll build, which was the in-game Blizzard build. So I'm going to put a link in the description. Just go to maxroll.com and you can actually copy everything there. Now, for whatever reason, and if you can't really use the link or something, I will go over this, but I'm going to do that later because it's going to take forever. But I do need to talk about the skill tree because it is different from the max roll build. I've changed it just to kind of give it my own flavor. But for the most part, everything is the same. The basic doesn't matter at all. Besides, you do want to get Firebolt. Firebolt is one of the enchantments. The other one is Ice Shards. So that is super important, obviously. Now down here, you definitely want to get the Ice Shards and try to get it on the gloves as well to get more points into it. But the final thing, if you're not casting this, you don't need it. So just get this and you're good. And you could put a couple points into this just to cap out your resistance. You want to play with this. You might want to put 3 points into it, but you just want to look at your resistance and see where you are. See, with the 2 points into it, the moment I actually cast any spell, I'm going to go up to 69% for all of those. And that's pretty much where I want to be, and that's fine. That's why there's only 2 points in there, but if you need more points in there, put maybe the last point in there. And then, yeah, you do want to get all this. Of course, teleport, flame shields, the standard stuff. Now, I can't believe this. I never thought I was going to do this in my life, but I am not using this because there's no need with this build. We have so much lucky hit chance. We are applying our seasonal power, which is applying vulnerable to the enemies. And we're doing that by just hitting the enemies. So it's always proccing. We don't need this at all. And yeah, everything is pretty much good down here. Now, I think this is different from max roll. I don't put all the points into this, and I don't know, if I'm going to take points out of something or sacrifice it, I'd rather take it out of this because I'll take less damage overall. And I wanted more points into this. This is a lucky hit build, so we definitely want the lucky hit chance. Also, I'm starting to really like this barrier. I really think it needs to be buffed though. I think this needs to be 30%. Because if this was 30%, that would buff this by 1 second, and it would buff this by like 2 seconds, right? So that would be really good. And that would actually really help her with her survivability. Because the sorcerer, or sorceress, whatever, right? It is very flimsy still. But a big problem actually is your barriers. It's you have to use your cooldowns in a way to always have your barrier with this. And if you mess up, well, you're probably going to die. And that's unfortunate. And if it had just a little bit more duration, 1 more second, I don't think anyone would actually have that problem. But this does help because it does like add, I did stopwatch this. It's like another 0.9, maybe 0.8. So it's kind of close to 4 seconds. So I really do like it now. And yeah, pretty much everything is good. This is OP. Now on your necklace, you can get this, and that's probably the best thing to get. I don't have it on mine. And instead, I actually have it for this passive here. But this passive is great to buff as well. I'm freezing the enemies instantly, so I'm actually getting a really nice buff from that. And one thing that's really different about the Maxwell build and mine is that I am not using a resource aspect. So it's really hard for me to keep my mana up, especially when I'm spamming blizzards. This really helps. I have a lot of lucky hit, so it's always proccing. I'm getting my mana back from this all the time. I don't have any real mana problems if I'm mobbing especially. Now, Shatter, I use Shatter, but if you're going to fight bosses or if you're farming bosses or something like that, Avalanche is just better. It actually will dramatically up the damage because of that 40x. That does apply to the spikes. And yeah, it's kind of crazy. So that's pretty much it when it comes to the skill points. Now let's go ahead and talk about the gear. And I'm going to try to make this quick. But one thing I will say is that you will notice it has 5 uniques. And that might be something where you're like, I'm clicking off this video immediately. Don't. Because every one of these uniques you can get from farming Duriel. And if you have a friend group, farming Duriel shouldn't be a problem if you combine your mats. But from my understanding, if you don't have a friend group, all you really have to do is just build up like maybe 3 summons of Duriel and then go and look for a game. You will find games and people will match you. So if you have 3 summons, that's 12 summons of Duriel. Every unique on this build is one of the common ones from Duriel. So if you had 12 summons of him, you would probably get everything on this build. And because it's using so many uniques, that's actually nice in a way. I gotta be honest, I'm loving the new system because it makes me go, hey, I don't need a ring on this build. Not really. I don't have to worry about like trying to get a really good ring. Or I don't have to worry about getting a chest piece. I don't have to worry about getting boots or pants. That's really nice when I think about it. Now, of course, I would like to have like god rolls on all this stuff, and I don't. But it is what it is. So now, I'm going to just kind of hover over my gear. If you want to just pause that at any point, you can see what I went for on this. Now, you know, not everything is perfect, but I will maybe try to mention if something could be better. I mean, with this, it would be better to have more ice shards. You do want that. I've noticed that those things hit really, really hard. And yeah, this is super OP. I really hope they do not nerf the pants or the boots because of the season. Both of these are amazing, okay? They are amazing. But I think the reason why they're so overpowered right now is because of the season. And that is because of Metamorphosis, which is the bat dodge. This gives us unstoppable. And by the way, if you haven't like leveled up a class, do not actually like max this out. Apparently it's much better if you leave it at level 1. That makes the duration of the unstoppable only 2 seconds. And that means that you can actually get your resource back a lot quicker by doing the dodge. And that's kind of crazy. And I'm going to do that on my barbarian, which I just made. But anyway, this is so crazy good that it really makes the boots and the pants so much better. And I'm just afraid that they're going to like cut everything in half. Like with this, they'll just say, 25 resource, 20% damage. And with these, you know, instead of it being like up to 10 seconds total, it will be like up to 5 seconds. And that would be really whack. So I hope they don't do that because I think that without that seasonal power, they wouldn't be as good. But right now, both of these are amazing. And there are a lot of cool things you can do with the flicker steps. Okay, now when it comes to the weapon, pretty much, yeah. On one of the weapons, put the deep freeze ice spikes aspect on, and this weapon is pretty good. I think that maybe I wouldn't want vulnerable. No, I really like this with the all stats. I actually recently just got this. Now the offhand, with this one, I put the ice armor on here. I recommend this. I love freezing these enemies. And by the way, it makes me more tanky. If the enemies are frozen, they're not killing me. That's something that I'm always thinking about. And on your offhand, I mean, I kind of think this is a god roll. The percentages are low, but I really think this is what you want on your offhand. And it's a 925, so that's really nice. Now the rings, pretty much like they're the uniques. To be honest, all the damage for this build mainly comes from these rings. Yes, I do a lot of damage with the crits and the ice spikes from Blizzard, but there is so much damage coming off of these. And because I instantly freeze enemies with this aspect here, that really helps the ring. I think that this ring is really awesome, but if the enemies aren't frozen, it doesn't really do a lot of damage. If they are, it does a lot. So both these rings are just amazing. And then on the necklace, this is important. You want to put the Blizzard one on the necklace. You really do. Which means you can't put Disobedience on there, which means you can't get more armor. And that is a big problem on the Sorceress. So that's unfortunate, but it's fine. With this build, because of the cooldown thing, what's really important is that you do have to pace your cooldowns. You can't just spam them. It's tempting because, you know, you're resetting them so often. You're like, man, I just want to spam my powers. But no, you have to pace them. And if you do that, you can really survive. It's not really that big of a deal. But yeah, I think that also this necklace is like a god roll. The only thing is the passive. The one is better with the crit damage. And that is the... what is the name of that again? It is Devouring Blaze. This is better. So if you can get this, it's going to be better for the ice spikes especially. Because that's all multipliers there and it's just crazy. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the rapid fire version of the gear. Now quickly, I will go over the seasonal powers. This is important because there is a couple things. One of the most overpowered things right now in the season and this build is Ravenous. Ravenous is so good with this build. Oh my god, especially with the boots, the other unique boots. Because with those, you get so much movement speed. Oh man, you can attack so fast with Ravenous. You do want this, like if you're going to use the flicker steps, definitely put this in. So nice, 20% cooldown for your ultimate. Prey on the Weak, if you are putting the curse on, you don't have to worry about vulnerable. That is so amazing. And you definitely, if you're going to use the flicker steps, right, if you're going to use these pants, you need this. You have to have Metamorphosis just because it gives you unstoppable and that dodge is so good with the flicker steps. You're able to dodge through the enemies so easily to reset your ultimate cooldown by 10 seconds. And then finally, a Curse Touch. This will apply the curse to everything. If you have a lot of lucky hit and a lot of AoE, everything's getting cursed. I mean, again, I'll just show you, like pretty much I'll go in and look already, just instantly, everything's cursed. Everything's going to just get instantly deleted. It is outrageous. So that's pretty much it when it comes to the build. If you're just watching this to quickly just copy everything, the main thing that this build is doing is just taking advantage of these rings. Like, I really love this ring. This was my very first Uriel drop that I got, and the moment I got it, I told myself I wanted to figure out like all the most broken builds that I can do with this ring. And I was on a Necromancer, and man, my Necromancer build is super good. I love it. So tanky, and it's really fun to mob clear. Let me know if you want to see that. I can show you that. But this ring is a very important thing with that build as well. And I wanted to make a Sorceress to do Meteor. I thought Meteor would be really cool with this. And it did work out really well with the ring, but Meteor is so bad at killing bosses or doing any real damage. I mean, it is terrible. It needs to be buffed. And I tried to make it strong. I could not make it strong. And the ring was the only thing that really did any damage. But then I thought, let me try it on Blizzard, because Blizzard is like kind of notorious for like being really good at like single target, killing Lilith, things like that. And oh boy, this is insane. Especially with the Shatter key passive and everything that's going on. The interaction there is like pretty much, I'll try to show you. And at this point, I just want to go over a lot of different things with this and kind of how it works. But if I do just like one Blizzard, we're going to wait. The moment the ice spikes go off, that is when they are going to be set on fire. And you can see the fire explosion with the little novas around them. And pretty much the interaction that's so strong though with the shatter is that the moment I start spamming this and that occurs, what's going to happen is that they're going to start exploding. You can see them exploding like right away, right? And then when they shatter, that's going to transfer all that damage. That damage is in the millions for those explosions most of the time. So when it transfers that, it is just insanity. Like, it will delete entire packs of elites on tier 100. Just delete them. So it is really, really powerful and a lot of fun too, of course. Now, I do want to talk about one of the big problems that a lot of people might have with a build like this, and really just this class in general, and that is the survivability of it. Oh my god. I have 9,300 armor. Now, if this was back in the day, I would have been drooling over that. But this is no longer back in the day. They have done an excellent job. I can't believe they've buffed this again. Well, actually, they didn't buff it. Well, no. What they did was they unnerfed this and then buffed it by a lot. And that is total armor. 30% is insane, okay? So one thing with, if you're going to play either the ball lightning build or this and whatever, right? If you're going to play the sorcerer, definitely you need total armor on the helmet and you need it on the necklace. That will be important. Now, if you could get it on your pants, that would be nice, but you can't because more than likely you're using these pants. This will be your in-game pants. And if you're playing a sorcerer, you're using this chest piece as well. So you see, here's the problem. I could sit here and complain about the fact that the sorceress has like no armor, right? And the only real complaint I would have, she should have more in the Paragon board, at least as much as maybe the necromancer. That would be really nice, but honestly, the reason why her armor is so low is because of the choices that we make for our builds. We're using this chest piece, so this is a defensive piece of gear. We need total armor on our chest piece, and we're not getting it with this. Same with the pants. If we had another pair of pants, we can have total armor on this. And if we had it on the necklace and the helmet, we'd be sitting at like maybe 12k armor. And at that point, we're good. My necromancer has like 12k armor. And the reason why though is because I am using pants. I am using a chest piece. I don't think I have it on the necklace, but if I did, I mean, it just is crazy. So it would be nice to have more armor, but unfortunately, it is what it is. So one thing you can do to counter that is you could put disobedience on the necklace. With a build like this, I mean, I don't know, if you just pay attention to where you would see disobedience, it stacks up to 60 instantly. You are at 60 like so quick, it's insanity. So having like more armor maybe on the necklace is nice, but the problem is that at that point, I did come out with a gameplay preview. If you watch that, you can see what it looks like with disobedience on the necklace. I mean, it still destroys, everything dies really quick, but the damage difference of the ice spikes, there is a huge difference there. So I, at this point, think that it's better to get used to this, and if you know how to pace the cooldowns, okay, so I'll give you an example of like how you would engage with this. And if you're going to do high tiers, it's really important. If you don't have your defenses up, you're dead. That's the way it goes. So normally, like, let's say I was just going to engage something, I would probably teleport in, that's going to give me a barrier, then I would probably Frost Nova just because that's going to instantly freeze everything, it's going to trigger my Frost Shards, all that. And then I would just start spamming my stuff. I would spam like however many I need. You know, if at that point I'm pacing my flame shield and my ice armor. So probably once I think that my initial barrier is going to go down, I would go with ice armor. And then if something was to happen, then I can go into my flame shield and then reset it. I can just go ahead and use my ultimate and reset everything, right? And this ultimate actually does, look at that, this ultimate actually does a lot of damage, okay? So, what you can do then is that you can then use your cooldowns to help you get your ultimate back, because you're going to have all your defenses up. Flame Shield, you can use Frost Nova, your teleport to pull everything. But basically, this would be an example. if I was to teleport and pull everything, I would then just dodge through, and I could also just go ahead and freeze everything and then dodge through. Another thing is that if I just hold my dodge, right, I'm going to ramp this up real quick and get everything going. And if I just hold down the dodge button, it's going to just dodge like so crazy fast, because these boots, the flicker steps, they have the whole like you reset your cooldown for your dodge with attacks. And when you have that many attacks, I mean, come on, you're going to just instantly get your dodge back. So as long as you're able to just dodge through the enemies, and again, you want to use your defenses, flame shields, all that type of stuff, pull them together, you're going to get your ultimate back, and then you just repeat that cycle. You just go ahead and use your ultimate, right, to reset all your cooldowns. Then I'm going to teleport, maybe like Frost, and I'm just dodging through when I can. And then at this point, super quickly, I can pop it if I need it again, and it's strong too. It actually does a lot of damage. It just stacks up the damage too. If you already put down a lot of blizzards, you're going to have all the ice spikes from the blizzards. And what is kind of a good idea, if you haven't ever used your ice armor, pop it first and then use your ultimate, right? Because you're going to actually be making even more spikes at that point. So, yeah, that's kind of how it goes. But I do want to talk a little bit more about defenses. And one of the things I want to talk about is what's actually super important. I've talked to a lot of people, and I've noticed a lot of people don't really understand that they really have to get their damage reduction to 85%. That is so important. Now you gotta ignore the whole damage reduction from elites. There's a passive that's doing that. That's not the real number. But the number that actually matters, and what's really great about the Paragon board, is the damage reduction from chill. My God. That is a lot, 46%, and everything is always going to be chilled unless they're unstoppable. If they're unstoppable, they're not, so keep that in mind. That is a big downside with this, by the way. The moment that a big elite becomes unstoppable, yeah, you don't get that damage reduction. So you gotta understand something. You always have to think about, okay, how am I getting 85% damage reduction? And if you can get there, but it's kind of going to be really complicated, or it's maybe some of the times you're at 85%, but not all the time, that's no good. You really have to try to figure out how can you be at 85%. And where I'm at right now, especially with that chill, everything dies fast enough that normally the monsters becoming unstoppable isn't really an issue. But you definitely want to have a whole bunch of damage reduction. But one thing you have to keep in mind, though, this is important, is that Mana Shield is awesome. I mean, they have dramatically buffed a lot of these damage reductions. It's kind of unfair because some of her damage reductions are 15% where no one else gets those. Like her Territorial, which is the damage reduction close glyph, it's 15%. Everyone else only gets 10, so that's kind of unfair, right? But anyway, Mana Shield, this is always up, so you always have 21% damage reduction, so keep that in mind. And also, anytime you do use teleport, and by the way, it is kind of nice to have maxed out teleport, put all the points in there just for the cooldown. Here's my thinking, if you're wondering why I did this, it's because I'm resetting the cooldowns. Do I need to have Frost Nova maxed out? No, I'm resetting the cooldown. Same with teleport and all that. Because of that, there's really no reason to put more points in to teleport, even if I want to have a better cooldown on it. But the damage reduction you get off a teleport is something else to consider. Now, you can't rely on this, but it is something to consider. So the whole point is that, are you reaching enough damage reduction that you're probably at 85%? If you are not going to be dying nearly as much. You will see a dramatic improvement. Now, next up, after that, it is your armor. That's the other problem. If your armor value is really low, then you're going to have an issue. Now, you can rely on disobedience, but when it comes to those higher tiers, I would say 13,000 is probably I have heard people say that is comfortable, but to me, I think that's the minimum. You want to get 13,000 with disobedience. So once I ramp it up, if I look at my armor, I'm basically there, okay? I'm there right now. And that's with having disobedience actually on the helmet, which oh, you know what? I need to actually put a max roll on this. I didn't even think about that. I just threw this on, but I have max rolls, so that would be even better. But the point is that if you get 13,000, it does feel pretty decent. But to me, if I could have it my way, I want like 15,000 at least. And that's with the disobedience. And the problem is that if the monsters ever catch you without your defenses up, or if your disobedience isn't up, they're going to do so much physical damage to you. It is ridiculous. So that is your biggest weakness. But if you play it smart and you keep your barriers up and you pace your cooldowns and you reset, you should not have any problem with survivability. But those are the reasons why people are dying, or why you might be dying at the higher tiers, is that 1, 85% damage reduction is always important. Number 2 is your armor, because of the physical damage reduction you get from that, and that's going to be your big weakness. And then because we are an intelligence class, we have a lot of resistance. That's normally not a problem. But that is the other thing, of course, to look at. If you're like playing a barbarian or something, that's something that you have to look at as well. How can you get as close to, if not max, resistances, have a decent amount of armor, and have 85% damage reduction? If you meet those requirements, you should be very, very tanky. I can't really think of much else that I really want to talk about besides the fact that I just really love this ring. This ring is so much fun. It's been fun, like, figuring things out. I'm doing a barbarian now. I'm definitely going to use this ring on the barbarian, try to figure out a way to make it really, really strong. But, you know, like I said, I have a necromancer build as well for the season. If you want to see that, let me know. It's using that ring as well. It's a very good mobbing build. It is, like, unkillable. It has so much armor. Oh, man. It is fantastic. The final thing I need to do is just talk about the Paragon board. I'll really just show it, because if you guys want to use the video to copy it, that's fine, but I got everything off of the max roll Paragon board for the in-game Blizzard build, and I will put a link in the description, so make sure, you know, if you want to just use that, if that's easier, use the link. But if you need to use the video, that's fine as well, because I know not everyone can click those links. But the first board is set up this way if you want to pause the video and pretty much copy that board. And the glyph that is in here is Elementalist, which is really good. One of the nice things, though, is honestly the fact that you get more of the resistances. This is actually how you get most of your resistance on her, is going to be from the Paragon. So yeah, this is super nice. And you get more damage, which is good. Now, this board is Icefall, which this legendary node is really, really good offensively, but they did actually, like, used to have a defensive one. They completely changed it. It gave you barriers. And those barriers actually would last for 5 seconds, which was really good. And to get the barrier, all you had to do was kill enemies that were frozen, which for a build like this would be insane. So I'm a little disappointed they got rid of the defensive one and we completely lost it. And that is a big complaint that I have, is that they need to buff the duration of those barriers because we lost the good barrier. I mean, honestly, the Icefall barrier was the best barrier you could actually use. So I'm just kind of like blown away that they did that, because the big complaint, of course, is that the Sorceress is flimsy. But the glyph that is in this board is Reinforced. Reinforced is also crazy. Now, number one, that damage reduction with a barrier will definitely help you get to your 85%. But, I mean, look what this does. I mean, look at the bonuses. 37.5 damage to chill. That's crazy. 25 intelligence. 15% more damage reduction from chilled. I mean, oh man. That is super, super good. Now, we are going to be moving out to the left. This board here is Enchantment Master. And let me find a spot. There you go, if you want to pause the video. And the glyph that is in this is Flame Feeder, which I heard that things like this, damage to burning, is multiplicative. It would make sense, because when you compare this to like Control, if this was additive, Control just blows it away. Control's like 140% additive damage. So it would make sense that this would be multiplicative. Now the next board is going to be going down, and this one is Burning Instinct. And if you want to pause the video and copy it, there you go. And the glyph is Destruction. Now speaking of a multiplicative damage, I mean crit damage and multiplicative, and look how much you get there, 194%. But super important for the build because you want as much crit damage for those ice spikes. That is important. Now, this board here, this is actually one that we get, the legendary node, Frigid Faith, really good. It can be buffed more if you get more cold damage, so if you can figure out a way to get that, it would actually help with the build. So keep that in mind, and let me go and find a spot. If you want to pause the video and copy that, go ahead. And then the glyph that is in this is the Slag one, which is the Ice Spike one, which gives you a ton of ice spike damage, but the main thing is the crit chance. You do want to have like as much crit chance as you can get for the ice spikes, and the true Blizzard build, like that in-game build from Max Roll, is using the other boots so that you can get that crit chance. Makes a lot of sense. But my build, I'm not really worried about that as much because it's going to blow everything up. I mean, everything gets blown up and just instantly dies. So I don't really, need to worry about the crit chance. And by the way, I do want to point something out as well. The in-game Blizzard build, according to Max Roll, is an A tier build, right? And when I'm playing this, in my opinion, I think that this is S tier just because it's so crazy strong. And I've played with all those S tier builds. All my friends, we all are playing all the best builds, and this build is like really crazy. So it's up there. And if Blizzard is an A tier build, I don't know. I guess this actually helps a lot. So the final board is Ceaseless Conduit. And if you want to pause the video, go ahead. And the final glyph is Control, which is crazy because you get that 10% X to chilled, and of course also frozen and stun. Very, very good, and a lot of additive damage. Now, if you ever are fighting like a boss or something, you can always take this out. If you're trying to kill Lilith, take this out, honestly. Because most of the time, you're not going to have the boss CC'd. Oh yeah, that was one other thing I forgot to mention. I don't think I mentioned this, but this aspect is really good at CCing the bosses. This will help a lot because you're just constantly applying more and more chill to the boss. And when you CC the boss, you're going to do a lot more damage. It is insane. That's pretty much it, guys. That's going to be everything. I really do hope that this has helped. I really hope that you have enjoyed it. And if you have, will you please like the video and make sure to subscribe for future videos. And let me know, do you want to see like my Necromancer build? And I will make this Barbarian build using this ring. Let me know if you want to see that. But yeah, I would appreciate it if you could subscribe. And I really do hope that everyone has a very nice day. And peace out.